We have a Stadium Series logo drop, maybe giving a clue as to the theme about this year's game at Raymond James Stadium, plus a big debate, NHL players at the Olympics. Yay or nay? We'll talk about it in today's Locked on Lightning podcast.
You're Locked on Lightning, your daily podcast on the Tampa Bay Lightning, part of the Locked on Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, Lightning fans? Welcome into another edition of Locked on Lightning. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Every single day, we are your free daily Tampa Bay Lightning podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, want to start out by shouting out our everydayers, the people who tune into every single show. We love you guys. We appreciate the support you give us week in, week out. I'm Nick Morgan, and I am joined by the Tesla coil to my goal horn, Greg Steven. Greg, what's up, man?
Oh, it's a great morning to talk about hockey. We got the logo for the Stadium Series yesterday, so excited to dive in.
We do, and I think we all know what the theme for the Stadium Series is going to be. Wink, wink. Talk about that in a second. Plus, are you still excited for the Stadium Series? I'm sure Tampa fans are, but just as a general hockey fan, what's your take on it? Plus, we have a couple of other hot button February-ish games to talk to. NHL players at the Olympics, yay or nay, and the future of the All-Star Game / Four Nations. Is it safe to say the All-Star Game is pretty much nobody cares anymore? Is it at that level? We'll talk about all that today. First, though, I want to mention today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. All right, Greg, we mentioned it at the top of the show, but we have a logo for the 2026 Stadium Series game at Raymond James Stadium. I'm looking at it and I see a nice little pirate ship. I see some Tampa Bay blue mixed in with some pops of orange. Greg, are you thinking what I'm thinking?
I'm thinking it's beautiful, honestly.
Yeah.
I love the logo. I think it's fantastic, well designed. And as Tampa fans know, Gasparilla month is late January, right? So it's going to just kind of all culminate into the Stadium Series, and I'm really excited for it.
You said the key word, Gasparilla. I saw a lot of people see the logo, see the colors, and think that this may be a Gasparilla-themed winter Stadium Series uniform that the NHL and the Lightning are going to be dropping for this game. It was obviously one of the most popular theme nights within the past couple of years. I know you still have the Tampa Bay Lightning Gasparilla flag on your wall somewhere.
I do.
So this is popular. Love to see it. I would love to do something different with the uniform. It always seems like when you get to the Stadium Series, it's either just sort of like it looks like a race car for some reason, and I think people know what I'm talking about when I say that, or it's just like you're giving a team that's been in the league since the 1990s some sort of like throwback 1930s winter jersey. So I would kind of love to see Tampa just be a little bit unique with it and maybe go full on pirate for the jersey design.
Oh, yeah. I think that would be really cool. I'm excited. I want to see a really poppy jersey, I think. I'm looking for that bright colors, especially with the outdoor game here. I am interested to see how the ice is, with the temperature down here in Florida. But we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, they did it in, I think, one of the first Stadium Series, not Winter Classics, was out when they had the doubleheader in California. They had a game in LA. I think they had one either that year or the next year up in San Jose. So, it seems like they have a pretty good way of kind of managing the ice and making it cool. The question I have, so obviously in Tampa, fans are pumped. Like, this is the first outdoor game in Tampa. Honestly, long overdue, to be honest. The Lightning have been one of the best run teams of the late 2010s going into now. It is weird that they haven't really gotten a chance to showcase just how big hockey is, in Tampa up until now, because, fans are going to pack that stadium. That
Oh
stadium
yeah.
sold out. And I really am surprised that it took them this long to get Tampa a game at home, especially because you've seen teams in California had one.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's just the roll of the dice. You never know who's going to get it. It is a shame, like you said, that Tampa didn't get the opportunity until more recently. And I think we have Florida to thank a little bit for that, bringing more attention to Florida hockey. And now here we go. Both of them are getting a stadium series.
Yeah. I want to talk about the stadium series just as a whole, as a concept. And I guess you could kind of loop the Winter Classic into this too, Greg.
Sure.
But what do you feel about just the state of the outdoor games in general? Do you still get hype from Tampa aside? Obviously we're hyped for this year, but this game aside, as a concept, where do you think the NHL is on this right now?
I like it a lot, actually. I think it's just a unique way to play one of the regular season games. I really support it. I think it's just like a unique experience for fans also, get to pack in a larger environment. Sometimes they're outside, or I guess all the time. And I don't think it's bad for the game by any means. I also really appreciate the fact that they do count for the regular season games. So I wouldn't say that if it's not my team, I'm not more excited because I'm not going to the game, but I also don't see the harm in doing it because it's still part of the regular season.
I mean, I break it down from two perspectives. From a fan perspective, just me as a hockey fan, I'm just kind of whatever on them at this point,
Yeah.
Like I feel like the novelty has worn off. When I went to the game in Nashville a couple of years ago, the Predators versus the Lightning, love the atmosphere. The atmosphere was crazy. I loved going downtown and just seeing fans of both teams just packing Lower Broadway. All the presentation and stuff like that was super fun. But if it's involving teams I don't really care about that much, I just don't think it's something that I will just turn on the TV and watch. You know what I mean?
No, I actually completely agree with you. I don't have any more desire to watch the game because it's, a stadium series. But I still will because I just watch so much of the regular season anyway. But like you said, I don't think it's boosting my desire to watch specific games. But tying in with what you said, I think the novelty is a little worn, like you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
I think a big part of it for me too is it's just a little too showy sometimes. I feel like I can't remember who performed. Was it 30 Seconds to Mars maybe at the last stadium series?
You could have made up a band and I would have been like, sure, man.
Yeah, and just I just don't think I don't want to make it this huge show like it's the Super Bowl type feeling. I do appreciate it being outside. I think it's unique. I like that part of it. I just don't think it needs to be this massive ordeal every single time. But to each his own.
I'm the opposite. I think it should feel more special. And I think maybe that's part of the reason is there's 3 of these a year most year. You have the Winter Classic, you have the Stadium Series, and then the Centennial Classic or Heritage Classic up in Canada, usually between 2 Canadian teams. It's just that's 3 outdoor games a year, and it doesn't make any of them feel any more special, especially with, I think, every NHL market except, I think 4 have hosted an outdoor game of some kind. Mm-hmm. If you're the Boston Bruins or Chicago Blackhawks, you have one every other year. I don't know why you still care at this point. To me, I feel like you should find ways to make it more special, more of an event. Yeah, screw it. Send out Jared Leto in 30 Seconds to Mars. Give me, pyrotechnics and Hank Williams Jr. singing stuff. Is he still alive? God, I'm
not sure.
Wikipedia will find out. But send somebody showy for pregame concert. Make this an event. It would be great if they didn't have it on January 1st, which is one of the biggest football days of the year. It seems like that's a little counterproductive to raising the NHL's profile, but I think you save this by kind of finding ways to make it more of a novelty, more of an event. Make it one day on the calendar that NHL fans want to tune in for. Make it some sort of event where, you want to have fans just clamoring to their TV sets, fighting for tickets. You want NHL fan bases to really argue and hope that their team brings in the Stadium Series that year. I think the more of a novelty, maybe more of a scarcity that you make this, I think the interest in it will maybe get to a better place than it is now. Again, from a NHL level.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't disagree with you.
Yeah. So let's talk about something else going on in February this year, and that's the NHL at the Olympics. It's going to be the first time in more than a decade that the players have hit the ice. Do you think it's a good idea? Yay or nay? We'll talk about that coming up in just 1 second. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action, so why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups, and the app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and a fun way to bet, so I'm not looking at the same players, the same props every single game. It's easy to use, it's fast to pay out, and it makes even regular season games that mean nothing feel like must-watch events. So whether I'm placing a same-game parlay or watching a bet ride into the ninth inning, FanDuel makes it feel like I'm part of the action. Hey, and if you're new to FanDuel, listen to this. New customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. So open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Welcome back to the Locked On Lightning podcast, Greg. We talked about the Stadium Series coming to Raymond James Stadium in 2026. Let's talk about something going on a little bit later in February. I think maybe just 7 days after the Stadium Series, and that is the start of the Olympics. This is going to be the first time in, I don't want to do math right now, but since 2014, that the NHL has sent players to the Olympic Games. A lot of people are excited about this, Greg. A lot of people still think Olympics, NHL, maybe not the best idea from a game standpoint. What are your thoughts? Where do you weigh in on this?
I think I'm mixed. I see a lot of good things about it, and I see a few bad things about it. We'll start with the good, I guess. I think the good is that a lot of these guys are very prideful, and they want to represent their country, and I don't think they should be denied that. I think it's a chance for them to play with other guys, give them a break from the grind of the regular season. And I think it does bring a lot of passion to the hockey world. And that in turn does bring in fans to the NHL.
Yeah. I just don't see a downside to it. To be honest, I could see a downside if you're Julien Brisebois and you have right now 5 players confirmed. You're probably going to have a lot more when the full rosters come out. And most of the NHL is getting a rest of some sort. You have players going out there playing physical competitive games, and you want your team healthy and not injured for a stretch run. I get that. I get that from, the owners' fan base. I get why owners in the NHL have been hesitant about sending players there, but it's just from a marketing standpoint, what's the downside? Players want to be there. The Olympic Games have historically done great numbers. There's been, especially in 2010, when USA and Canada had those 2 really good battles, there's been a good boost to the NHL product after that because there's been such a good interest in hockey. And on top of that, it's just fun. Like, are you telling me that you watched the 4 Nations last year and you don't want to see a full 2-week slate of some of the best international players in the world going at it. To me, that it's just, I don't see the downside to this. And I don't know why so many fans are against the NHL and the Olympics, Greg.
Yeah, I look, I think I lean more in favor of it than I don't. I think you really touched on my core bad takes, is that the injuries can pile up. I want to provide a small example of that. You saw it in Four Nations, right? Charlie McAvoy, he suffered a serious injury in Four Nations, completely unnecessary. And that tears up the Bruins lineup, right? I mean, he's a huge piece of that team. You look at it again, Matthew Tkachuk, he got injured there as well, and he was out pretty much all the way up until game 1, right, of the playoffs. So look, big guys can get hurt in these games, and that does impact the product of the NHL to some degree. And I think you touched on it as well. It does create a slight imbalance of rest. Like you said, the Lightning do have many guys going, and other teams won't have that many guys. Is that a big deal? Probably not. Some might even argue that these guys continuing to play hockey while other guys are sitting on the couch are actually at an advantage, right? You just stay in motion and you keep on the grind. I think, like you said, though, the benefit outweighs those qualities. It's just that it's so exciting. Like, you do want to see these teams compete against one another. You saw it in Four Nations. These guys were throwing hands right off the bat, right? We saw the Tkachuks go at it. We saw Hagel. And I'm sitting there scared Hagel's going to break his hand, obviously. But at the same time, I'm screaming at my TV and I'm loving hockey, right? So I think the excitement is there, like you had mentioned, and the rivalries between the countries. It's really an exciting time for hockey.
Yeah, I think that was the first 10 seconds of USA Canada this past year. One of the most watched hockey sports clips in general in the year, like on social media. So, and I've had a lot of people who don't follow hockey at all. They were texting me during the Four Nations and be like, holy crap, this is sick.
Yeah.
And so you get that out there. And I know that there's not going to be a brawl in the Olympics every shift. That's probably unique to the Four Nations.
Right.
But I would say that any sort of big international tournament where you have the best players in the world, representing your country, you're going to get a lot of casual interest in that. And that is, I feel like the last couple of Olympics, kind of lost its luster a little bit by not having the NHL in it. And that's no disrespect, because I stepped up more. I watched a lot of, the women's game. And I'm happy that maybe the NHL not being there allowed me to maybe deep dive into, the women's tournament, because I probably wouldn't have gotten into the PWHL had it not been for that. But I still think, boy, it just kind of fell flat. And no disrespect to any of the other events, but I feel like hockey is kind of the anchor for the Winter Olympics and has been for a really long time. That's where you get the household names. That's where you have like the top athletes from one of the 4 major sports leagues going at it. That's, I think, what you have to capitalize on. Yeah,
no, I completely agree. And look, it's like we were talking about it. It's exciting for us as NHL fans. But the other thing is, it brings a lot of excitement to foreign countries who don't get to see their country compete often, right? And I'm sure they want their best guys there too. And I think that means bringing the NHL to the Olympics. And I think it's important that we play in it.
Yeah. Also, a side note, just getting this from our fact checker, aka Wikipedia, Hank Williams Jr. is still alive.
Good to know.
And good for him, thriving. Actually just got married in the past couple of years. So
perfect.
We'll see him at the next outdoor game, I'm sure. Hey, we talked about the Olympics. We kind of hinted about the Four Nations. That leads us to the All-Star game. Is that still something anybody, whether it's the fans, whether it's the players, even still care about? Or is it time for the NHL to maybe look to do something else? We'll talk about that coming up in just 1 minute. Welcome back to the Locked On Lightning podcast. Hey, the Tampa Bay Lightning, pretty strong core, right? But it's about time for somebody else to step up and become a part of it. On Friday's show, Greg and I are going to be looking at some breakout candidates for the Tampa Bay Lightning this year. We'll look at both the forward core and on the defensive blue line, maybe even goal. aspect of it. That's coming up Friday on Locked On Lightning. For now, though, Greg, let's get into yet another hot button topic around the NHL, sticking with the February theme, and it's the NHL All-Star Game. Didn't have it last year. We had the Four Nations, which was a massive success, I would say, for the NHL. And even before that, it just seemed like the NHL All-Star Game was kind of a dying star burning out in the sky somewhere. What are your thoughts on the future of the NHL All-Star Game?
Oof. I think we'll still see it happen at least once more. My personal take is I can't stand it. It feels very cheap and corny to me personally. I have the same take on it that Kucherov did the last time he was there.
I was just about to make a Kucherov joke.
Look, it feels like they're parading these guys around to do, silly stuff. And I do get it to some extent. It's probably more catered to a younger audience, trying to get, kids to watch some cool stuff with tricks and things like that. And that can be exciting to some extent. If they're going to continue to do it and they want to continue to do it, there needs to be some sort of change there. I don't know what it is per se, and I'm not the guy to ask, but it's just not that fun to watch. And I don't want to see guys like Kucherov, go out there and give a obvious half-ass effort. I think that really reflects poorly on the decision to even have it, right? So, yeah, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan. I think they will to give it another shot, but I don't know if it's going to depend on how well that one more does. I think it's my best guess.
Yeah, you mentioned it's not that fun to watch. It doesn't sound like it's all that fun to play in. There is that famous. I think it was Rob Brindamore when his division lost in like that first playoff game, and people are like, oh, are you disappointed you didn't get that first game? And he's like, we had a tea time, so we're out. They're out the arena by the time the championship game's even going on. Right. It's just so obvious that players didn't care. And of course, you had people like Alex Ovechkin, publicly saying, please don't vote for me.
Right.
It's obvious that nobody wants to be in it. I applaud the NHL actually for doing, some different stuff. We had some of like the outdoor challenges a few years ago for the skills challenge. You had Justin Bieber and Tate McRae come in to be celebrity coaches. I appreciate them really trying to dig in and fix this thing. But, I mean, look, you saw what happened at the Four Nations last year. You saw how players were excited to play in it. You saw fans were excited to watch it. I don't know how you go back to the All-Star Game at this point, man.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I don't think you can really. I mean, I guess you could, but I actually liked what you brought up. Those skills outdoor, I think that was in Vegas, if I'm not mistaken. But those were actually pretty exciting. That was one of the more entertaining All-Star games I think I've seen. But yeah, I mean, this past one with Kucherov, that was just you don't want and look, as if you're the NHL, you don't want guys going out there and doing that, right? Like that looks so bad, and it's obvious that he was just really not looking to do this at all. And I think if you're gonna do it, and you're gonna have guys go, I think you can't find guys who don't want to go. And I know that creates a problem, but they are penalized if they're selected and don't go. Yeah. So, I think that's something that needs to be looked at maybe if you're going to continue, but.
Yeah, but at the same time, I get that's a stupid rule.
Yeah.
Because of course, if you get hurt and you have to bail, like I get it. Like that's one of those things that you have to do it. But at the same time, I get why the rule is there.
Yeah.
Like you don't want people to be like, oh my God, Connor McDavid is coming and he's going to be the center of the All-Star Game, only for McDavid to be like, I'd rather just be on vacation for a week if that's okay. Right. I'm kind of carrying an entire franchise on my back at the moment.
Right. And also, what happens is you let that happen and then most of them bow out, and then it's just a really bad look because most of the good players aren't even there. So it's how much of an All-Star Game is there really? Yeah.
Get ready for above average season.
Right.
Yeah. More like Morgan Geeky and Logan Stankoven carrying the All-Star game
right
year. So let's say the All-Star game is still going to be around. Give me one big idea that you have to make this fresh, to make this something that players are going to want to be at.
I think you gotta get away from the very basic, obvious competitions. Like there are some, I guess, that I could see remaining, like fastest skater, but I don't know. I think just the basic, like let's aim at targets kind of thing is just kind of dead to me. Most of these guys can hit these targets at will, right? And I think you got to get more creative with it. I think of it as like a mini golf experience, if you will, and you want like there to be some pizzazz in there. It shouldn't just be this very obvious, like I can shoot the puck kind of competition. Maybe like, I don't know, you got to add in some wackiness to it, I think.
I agree with you there. I would love to see them freshen up some of the challenges and stuff. I remember where they were doing it was almost like the slam dunk competition where they were doing like the zany breakaways.
Yeah.
You had Patrick Kane putting on a Superman outfit and breaking the puck. You had Jakub Voracek taking Johnny Gaudreau and taking him like a little kid down the ice.
Mm-hmm.
You just had like fun things. And it seems like the players really kind of had fun getting into that. The fans kind of loved seeing it. And it just seems like it went away. So I would love to see them bring back that again. Like I love the outdoor challenges that they had, a couple of times ago. It seems like that brought a new, dimension to it. Let me ask you this, Greg, because in that first block, we talked about the NHL outdoor game needing to be more of a novelty, being something that players, really want to play in. Do you do anything where you combine the two events? Do you make maybe like a Pro Bowl, Super Bowl situation where you have the All-Star game, maybe like a week or, 4 days, 5 days before, and players get to play outdoors? It's this big thing and in this big stadium. You can have multiple days of events there. And then you turn around a couple days later and you have the Stadium Series. And that's the only game that week. And it's, big matchup between two big teams. Am I spitballing a good idea here?
Maybe I would have to ask you a question. It would be, are you bringing the competition before the Stadium Series? Would it be the Stadium Series players doing that competition, or would it truly be like the All-Stars and then would they come and watch two actual NHL teams play? Is that?
I mean, I'm sure you could book a tee time the day of the Stadium Series if you're Connor McDavid.
Okay.
But I mean, maybe like,
okay, yeah.
Maybe, I mean, it could be a situation where like let's say it's Tampa and Boston this year, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, is 3-4 days rest on a off week, like if you get the entire week off, like, could you conceivably have Viktor Hedman go out there for, 3 shifts and maybe the skills competition, have 3 days off, and then have him come back and play a meaningful game? I think so. I don't think that's a big ask. And I think that's something that Viktor Hedman would be like, sure, it's in the home stadium. Like, might as well just do a couple of laps, set up the puck for some other players in a game that means nothing, that nobody's trying in, have a couple days off, and then go play, a physical regular season game outdoor in front of 60,000 people. I think you could get players to buy that.
Yeah, no, I don't think you're wrong. I think that's very fair to say. I will say one point that you did bring up was that you said a game that no one's trying in is the issue with the All-Star game, though.
But no, that doesn't matter. Like, it's the All-Star game. Nobody's going to try in any All-Star game.
No, I completely agree. But that's just my point.
Like,
if they're going to do it, it might as well just be some skills and then right into the Stadium Series, probably.
Yeah. I would like to see maybe a 3-on-3 or something like that.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it could be fun.
I don't know. We'll see. Hey, if you're listening and you have any ideas, let us know. Chime in on our YouTube channel. Let us know your thoughts on the NHL players at the Olympics, what you would do to fix the All-Star game, and whether you think the Stadium Series, not this year, because this year is going to kick ass, but whether you think the outdoor game as a whole needs an overhaul from the NHL. Let us know on our YouTube page, or shoot us a tweet Instagram message. You guys know where you can find us. Just search Locked On Lightning on any platform you're using. That's going to do it for us on today's show. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Every single day, we'll be back on Friday with an all-new episode. We'll see you then.